I want to bring in now a member of the Democratic leadership in the House, Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California, who is one of the 17 lawmakers on that bipartisan conference committee that you saw today negotiating to avert another shutdown. Top line, what is your takeaway from your first meeting on that conference committee today?
Glad to be with you, Chris. And I just have to say, today I heard a willingness on both sides to try to get this done. I have a sense of urgency, like I think most of the conferees do have, because people are very anxious. We cannot have another government shutdown. This has wreaked havoc on people's lives. And so, you know, businesses have lost customers, contractor employees have lost revenue and their wages, federal employees did not get paid. I mean, the havoc that this has created is immeasurable. And so I think this sense of urgency will push us to find the deal that will bring both sides together so that we do not have another shutdown. Because the solution to this has got to be evidence-based, it's got to be effective. And what I heard today was that members on both sides want to work hard to try to get this done.
So I listened to those speeches that people gave in the conference committee. I heard the same thing. I basically heard a lot of people saying, let's not get another shutdown. We can find some kind of deal to cut here. Here's my question. I don't doubt that conference committee could cut a deal. But if the president decides to rip it up, then where are we? Like, how do you account for that?
I think it's up to, especially the Republicans on the conference committee, to push back on the president. This is why we established a conference committee. We're appropriators. We're trying to work through this. And the president should adhere to what the conferees decide. And so I hope that this president does not try to derail this, because so much is at stake, Chris. We cannot go through this again. And so we're working in good faith. And I hope the president understands that we're working in good faith together to try to get this done. And we've got to do this quickly.
I thought an interesting moment today. One of the conferees is Henry Cuellar. He's a Democrat who's got a border district. He's probably one of the most conservative Democrats in the caucus in terms of his voting record. But he also has land in his district on the border. And he came out and as Igor Bovich, who was one reporter watching this, said, he crashed the kumbaya, bringing pictures and charts to argue walls are ineffective deterrents and eminent domain is required. Are there red lines around a wall from your caucus's perspective as you go into these negotiations?
We have talked, quite frankly, about the $5.7 billion that this president wants for a wall. That's unacceptable. We have talked about other priorities. We have to have FEMA fully funded. We have to have our Coast Guard fully funded. We have to have TSA funds available. And so this is about looking at what's cost effective, what makes sense in terms of border security. And really, Chris, we have to remember this is a humanitarian crisis at the border. And so we've got to look at how we address the humanitarian concerns of children and of families.
Is that a priority of the appropriators on this conference committee from your perspective, to get more money to deal with the humanitarian aspects of this?
I know it's a priority for many of us, and so we have to look at the details. We haven't begun the process yet of negotiations, but I think when you look at what has taken place, that you can't turn your back to the crisis of people. And this is really a tragedy, what is taking place. But border security is really extremely important as we move forward, so that we can make sure that all of the issues around border security are addressed. But when you talk about the emergencies, children, families, we've got to address that, and we've got to address that immediately. And we've got to make sure that we do not have another government shutdown. And so this process is beginning of the conference committee, and I hope the president listens to what the conference committee says and reports out.
Well, so here's the strategy as I see it. So what I heard was a consensus in that room, Republicans and Democrats, that the shutdown was a bad idea, in fact, a disaster. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment. That's exactly what the majority of members said today.
Okay, that was clear. So the idea here is we basically try to work out a deal and then jam the president on it, frankly. But I guess my point is that's what they tried back in December when he shut the government down.
Well, he did, but this is a conference committee meeting together again, trying to do our work, and this president must not derail this. Remember, we have 3 branches of government. We're doing our job, and this president should acknowledge that and should know that we're doing the best we can for border security on behalf of the American people.
Final question. This is a narrow deal around border security funding. It's not a bigger deal around things like DACA status, TPS, and other things. Am I right?
That's correct.
Narrow deal. All right, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who's on that conference committee, which again looked like a model of bipartisan bonhomie today. And we will see how long that lasts and where it goes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Nice being with you.